You're listening to Mr. Thursday Night. Now here's Brett Gombita.
Well, we're already a quarter of the way into the season. I'm 4-0. My week 4 prediction was 4 points away from the correct score. And I was making all those jokes about a tie last week, and, well, the Cardinals and Seahawks didn't tie, but the Packers and Cowboys did. Anyways, it's time for week 5. We'll first recap the Seahawks-Cardinals game, 23-20 Seahawks. Here on Mr. Thursday Night, I'm Brett Gombita, as always. Looking back at it, Seattle was up 20-6, and it looked like it was over, but Arizona was able to tie it up, forcing Seattle to kick a game-winning field goal. Looking back on the scoring, Chad Ryland started things off with a field goal for the Cardinals, followed by 17 unanswered points from the Seahawks. A.J. Barner, the first touchdown of the game, 16 yards out. Charbonnet, a 1-yard run, and then Jason Myers, his first field goal of the night. Then a couple of field goals were exchanged. A deep field goal from Ryland made it 17-6, but Seattle would respond with a Jason Myers field goal to make it 20-6. And then here's where it got interesting. Marvin Harrison Jr. scored from 16 yards away to cut it to 7, 20-13. Arizona then gets a stop because Jason Myers misses a field goal. Then Kyler throws another touchdown, this one to Amari DiMercado, to tie the game with 28 seconds left. And when it looked like we might be heading to OT, the kickoff by the Cardinals fell short of the landing zone, and Seattle used the short field to go down and kick the game-winning field goal. Jason Myers, he redeems himself, his third field goal of the game. And for that, I'm naming him the Mr. Thursday Night Player of the Week. We've yet to have an offensive player win this award. We've had a special teams player now in Jason Myers. It's going to take a lot if you're an offensive guy to win this award. There hasn't been a standout performance to me so far throughout these 4 games. We'll see, though. Jason Myers, 3 field goals, 2 extra points. He wins this week's Mr. Thursday Night Player of the Game. And as for my friends who submitted their scores, this week's winner is another tie between 2 people who were 5 points away. Joe Shirillo and Dean Shazer both had the Seahawks. Shirillo had 21-17. Shazer had 27-21. Those were the 2 closest scores when you add up the point differential. And both of them, that was their first time getting the closest score. So get them in this week. We got 49ers Rams. We'll look back now at last week's fantasy starts and sits. My QB start was Kyler Murray. And yes, he did get there thanks to a very big fourth quarter effort. When he threw those 2 interceptions, it was not looking good. But that fourth quarter effort gets him there, and Kyler beats his projection. Brock Purdy, I said last week, bench the 49ers quarterback. It turns out to be Brock Purdy. He falls just short of his projection as the 49ers lost the game, their first loss of the year. Purdy also threw for 2 interceptions in this game, just like Kyler. Those definitely helped Purdy fall below his projection because he threw for over 300 yards in this one, but just missed out on that projected total. And we're not going to see Purdy this week. We'll talk more about that later, though. Trey Benson was my running back start. Didn't work out. Amari DiMercado stole the show late in this one in the fourth quarter. Left Benson just short of his projection. When they were driving down the field, both touchdown drives, DiMercado was the back pretty much the whole way. Or else Benson would have probably beat his projection, but that's just how life goes, I guess. Derrick Henry was my running back sit. Yes, you should have sat him because that was the least amount of snaps he played all season. And his backup, Justice Hill, put up nearly 30 points. I don't think this trend will continue. The trend of Hill outscoring Henry, I mean. Henry's got to pick up the pace here soon, right? Wide receiver, I had Cooper Kupp as my start. Kupp never really got going in this one, so that's a no. My wide receiver sit, though, on the other hand, we're 4 weeks into the season, and he's yet to beat his projection. That was Brian Thomas Jr. He failed to beat his projection again, making that a successful bench. And then both the tight ends, I'm horrible at predicting tight ends. Tight ends are impossible to predict. I'll go back at the end of the year and revisit my tight end stats. But I said start McBride. He did not meet his projection. He had double-digit points, but not quite to that projected total. And then Mark Andrews, I said to bench, and he goes out and has his most catches of the season. For the second week in a row, he beats his projection. So 4 for 8 on the week. I went 1 for 4 on the Thursday night players, so I'll take a 3 for 4 during the Sunday games. Overall on the year, I'm 17-32, just over 50%. Hopefully we can improve on that as the season goes on. Maybe that'll start right now with this week's starts and sits. I've got Jared Goff as my quarterback start against the Cincinnati Bengals. Despite the team's success that the Lions have seen, Jared Goff has fallen below his projection in back-to-back weeks. I think he bounces back this week against a weak Cincy defense. Kind of going to have the same QB sit this week. It's going to be a different player, though. It's going to be Mac Jones. Last week I said 49ers QB. This week I'm saying Mac Jones because we know for certain when the episode is filming that Mac Jones is the starter. When San Fran played on Sunday last week, the status of Purdy was still in the air. He does end up playing in that game, but he's not going to play this week, so I'm going to say sit Mac Jones. Just a number of reasons as to why. No receivers. Didn't know he was starting until today. Thursday night, short week. We'll see how it goes, though. I'm going to say start Kyren Williams. He's had back-to-back 75-plus rushing yard performances. And against a defense without Nick Bosa, he should have another one, so start Kyren Williams. My running back sit is Chase Brown, who has yet to beat his projection this year. Chase Brown, I hope I'm cursing you because I need you, buddy. I need you to start performing on my fantasy team. I'm 4-0 with you somehow missing your projection every week. Let's pick up the pace, Chase Brown. Got Davante Adams as my wide receiver start. 3-week touchdown streak. He might be the best wide receiver, too, in the league. You look at what Puka Nacua is doing, and, Davante Adams is putting up incredible numbers, too. One guy who isn't is A.J. Brown, and that's why he's my wide receiver sit this week. He's been off to a super underwhelming start in 2025. I think that continues this week against the Denver Broncos. PS2 versus A.J. Brown. Tight end start, I'm going to go with my guy Jake Tongs here. He had a career game last week, and so far he's been pretty solid filling in for George Kittle. Look for Mac Jones to target Jake Tongs in this one. And for my tight end sit, I'm going to go with a guy who seemed forgotten about last week on the New Orleans Saints offense. He had a good first 3 weeks, but after that, didn't really do much of anything last week against the Bills. Jawan Johnson, that's my tight end sit. So, to run it back, Jared Goff is my QB start. Mac Jones is my QB sit. Kyren Williams is my running back start. Chase Brown, my running back sit. Davante Adams, my wide receiver start. A.J. Brown, my wide receiver sit. Jake Tongs, my tight end start. And Jawan Johnson, my tight end sit. Is 8 for 8 possible? I don't know. Find out next week. And now we get into our local ties. In this one, there's quite a few. Got Jason Pinnock from Pitt, safety on the 49ers, as well as some Penn State guys. Kevin Givens, Jair Brown, and Yetur Gross-Matos, all Penn State alums. And then we got a Whippeal guy as well, Sky Moore, Shady Side Academy, former Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. Over on the Rams side, you got one Pitt alum, Kanunte Mumpfield, rookie wide receiver this year. You got a former Steeler and Kevin Dotson, former offensive lineman on the Pittsburgh Steelers, traded to the Rams a couple of seasons ago. And then you have a son of a former Steeler DB and DB coach, Carnell Lake, his son Quentin on the LA Rams, key part of that defense. Both of these teams come in 3-1. We'll tell you how they got there. 49ers started off with a win on the road against the Seattle Seahawks in a game where they lost George Kittle and lost Brock Purdy. 49ers got that win 17-13. Followed it up in Week 2 with a 26-21 win against the New Orleans Saints. Mac Jones made his first start of the season there. He'd make his second start of the season a week later against the Arizona Cardinals. A 16-15 win on a game-winning field goal from Eddie Pinheiro, who didn't begin the year with this 49ers team. They parted ways with Jake Moody earlier on. And in this same game, they lost Nick Bosa for the season. Last week, a 26-21 loss versus the Jaguars handed the 49ers their first loss. And Jaguars head coach Liam Cohen and 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh got into it after the game. The two of those guys had to be separated after that one. Looking at the Rams, they come in 3-1 as well, as we mentioned. A 14-9 win over the Texans Week 1, followed by a 33-19 win against the Tennessee Titans and rookie quarterback Cam Ward. Then in Week 3, they lost their first game, 33-26 to the Philadelphia Eagles. Rams were lining up for a game-winning field goal, and it was blocked by the Eagles and ran all the way back for a touchdown. I think the Rams were the team that played the Eagles the closest last year in the playoffs on the Eagles' way to the Super Bowl, and the Rams just played them close again. And they actually had the lead at one point in this game, 26-7. Philadelphia scored all the points, though, after that. And then last week, a 27-20 win for the Rams over the Colts ended Danny Dimes' his 3-0 run to start the season. So both these teams 3-1. Looking at some of the injuries on both sides, Brock Purdy is out, Jawan Jennings is out, Ricky Pearsall is out, George Kittle's on IR, on top of Nick Bosa out for the season, and Brandon Ayuk hasn't even played yet. Got to take a breath after that one there. That's the 49ers injury report. You're down your top 3 receivers, your top tight end, your top edge rusher, and your QB. That's a lot. That's a lot to make up there. Looking at the Rams, only key guy that's status is up in the air is Tyler Higbee, the tight end. He's doubtful. And at the time of recording, the Rams are favored by 8.5. I'm recording this at 11 p.m. on Wednesday night. I won't be surprised if we see that number jump up here as the game gets closer. 45.5 is the over-under. Last year, the Rams won both matchups. First one was 27-24. 49ers were up 24-14 in this one, but Joshua Carty kicked a game-winning field goal as the Los Angeles Rams scored 13 straight points. And then Joshua Carty was doing a lot of kicking in Week 15 last year, a Thursday night football game between these two teams. There wasn't a single touchdown. The Rams won 12-6 behind 4 field goals from Carty. I had the Rams winning in this one. I had them winning like 31-24, though, I think. Didn't think it was going to be that low scoring. The Rams have won the last 3 matchups. We mentioned the 2 above. Before that, the 49ers had won 3 straight. Matthew Stafford is 3-8 versus the 49ers in his career, 2-5 as a Ram, and 2-0 last year. So started off 0-5 against the 49ers in his career as a Los Angeles Ram. That's not counting playoff games, obviously, because Matthew Stafford defeated the 49ers on his way to the Super Bowl in 2021. Mac Jones has never played the Rams in his career. This will be a first here tonight. 49ers are undefeated on the road this season. The Rams undefeated at home this season. The home team was undefeated in Thursday Night Football until last week. Seattle became the first road team to win. But I'm going to stick with the home team in this one. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Rams to win this game. 23-13. How about that? I'm making this up on the fly. Usually I write it down, but we'll wing it. I'll say 23-13 Rams. I think it lands right on or about that over-under total. Those losses on the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers, you're down your top 3 receivers, top tight end. I think that's going to be too hard to overcome. So give me the Rams in this one. Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of Mr. Thursday Night. I'll see you guys next week. We got another in-division matchup, this one between the Eagles and Giants. So I'll see you guys then, and hopefully I see you at 5-0.